shoulders of these health workers, we at the Nigerian Television Authority, NTA, on behalf of millions of Nigerians, say a big thank you for all that you have done and are doing. To the security agencies enforcing the lockdown and every other frontliner, we say thank you for putting your lives on the line to save ours. There is no amount of work.
All right, and thank you too for staying with us. This is Good Morning Nigeria. If you've just joined in, we have our guest here, very distinguished, and of course a lady. And I'm going to the lady now, Rinsola Abiola. A couple of questions to ask. Now, there were ideals, for which June 12th, we celebrate June 12th today, basic ideals. The youth today appear to be more divided in perception and in their actions. How do you think we can knock them in, to embrace the ideals, that we're celebrating?
I think as a country, we may not have done too well with ensuring that generations that come after certain major incidents happen are, kept abreast of developments that happened before their time. With regards to history, I don't really think that we're giving it the kind of priority that we ought to. But then that being said, there are quite a number of young people who are politically conscious, who are also socially aware, and who have an interest in how our country is run and the journey that has brought us to this point. So I believe as a youth advocate myself, I advocate extensively for youth inclusion in governance. I believe that a way to reach young people is to make politics and other affairs of state attractive to them. In the last, between 2015 to 2019, during the previous assembly, we were able to get the Not Too Young to Run bill to pass, for instance, which succeeded in lowering the age of eligibility for, standing for elections in Nigeria. And we saw a marked improvement in the number of young people who came forward to contest for elective offices. We have a number of young people who have been elected into positions across the country. Some other have taken up appointments. So yes, there seems to be some kind of marginal improvement, but we're still not where we need to be with, ensuring that all in this democracy, all of our citizens are adequately represented, and government needs to reflect the demography of the people. Nigerian women make up almost half of the population of this country, and we all know that women inclusion in governance, for instance, has remained a challenge. So, when we say that democracy is a government of the people, by the people, for the people, it's also important to keep in mind the fact that the people include different groups, some of which are terribly marginalized: women, youths, people with disabilities, and we have to work to ensure as much as possible that all of these different groups are represented in the governance of this country.
Let me just take you further. The same youths who shout June 12, June 12, restore June 12 mandate, do they really understand what that mandate is? Because they are the same youths who peddle fake news. They are the same youths who peddle disinformation, on the social media and all of that. So that's what I'm saying. How do we get these youths? How do we reorientate their minds so that they truly embrace the ideals which they clamor for?
A significant youth population. Okay, so, as I said earlier, we have a number of young people who seem to be aware of the right thing, who are socially, politically conscious, but then at the same time, we have challenges with some of our youths. And I think a lot of what we have to do regarding reorienting young people lies to a large extent to the government. We can always, we have a Ministry of Youth Development. We have a number of other programs targeted at young people being done in other ministries and other agencies. And I believe it's a vehicle to enlighten our young people, to bring them on board, to give them the kind of knowledge and the kind of skill sets that we believe they should have. Also, social media, if we look at disinformation, fake news is a huge problem. People spread all sorts of things. But then I believe that there have to be consequences for actions, and I believe that within the laws that we have, there are ways to ensure that people who spread fake news are held to account for the kind of things they do, especially in cases where the fake news, for instance, leads to conflict or exacerbates conflict where it already occurs. So, like, we have laws already through which we can prosecute such cases and ensure that those who are fond of doing things like that are made to refrain from doing so. Also, government has been trying in recent times with the digital communication, especially since the COVID-19 pandemic hit our shores. And, you know, it's important to be able to step that up. We have quite a number of people from the presidency to state governments with a large presence on social media. And it's also an avenue. It provides a great opportunity to enlighten young people, to talk to them about what government is doing, the kind of things we would like our young people to be engaged in.
Just before we let you go, I have one question for you. Certain family events, including tragedies, could either serve to be incentives or disincentives for surviving members of such families. How does politics smell today in the Abiola family?
We're quite many. There are quite a number of us, his children. And then it's a large family too, from the extended family end. And people have different interests, basically. I'm quite involved in politics myself. I've stood for elections. I've worked at the National Assembly. I've been involved at party organizing at the highest levels. And, you know, there are others. I think about 2 brothers of mine have also tried to vie for elective office. Chief Mrs. Lola Abiola Idewa was a member of the House of Representatives. She is still in government, but now as an appointee. And we have Auntie Hafsat, Ms. Hafsat Abiola Costello. She's in civil society, doing great work with respect to women. Saratu is doing great work also in civil society. So we have quite a number of us who are either involved in politics or civil society and trying to make change happen from the civil society angle. And then, of course, we have others who have diverse interests. My sisters, for instance, from my mom, they wouldn't touch politics with a 10-foot pole. They have no interest whatsoever in it. So some of us are inclined towards it, some others aren't. And I think I understand the reluctance from those who don't want anything to do with it. But at the same time, well, interest different. In a large family, you're bound to find people with a very wide set of interests.
Rinsola, I thank you and applaud your courage to veer into politics. Rinsola Abiola, daughter of late Chief MKO Abiola, joining us live in our studio to discuss, of course, Democracy Day today. Rinsola, thank you very much and do have a wonderful day.
Happy Democracy Day.
All right, this is Good Morning Nigeria, and we're discussing, I beg your pardon, Democracy Day, June 12th. So let me direct my question to the senator. Distinguished Senator.
I was just wondering, I mean, we've had Senators Mungena speak. Osita Okechukwu, well, Claire, if you don't mind. Osita Okechukwu, DG, you know, he had left some of his responsibilities hanging with regard to the significance of June 12. I was just wondering, in 21 years now of the Fourth Republic, as it were, and the Fourth Republic itself might never have been if June 12 had been upheld, because June 12 was supposed to usher in the Third Republic, even though it had started in January of 1992. In your opinion, are there lessons that are manifest in the conduct of political actors in the Fourth Republic? Is there a reminder at all times of the conscious acts or lack of those conscious acts that we ought to take to ensure that the regains of democracy are sustained and otherwise ramped up?
A lot of reminders. A lot of reminders in the sense that when, as the distinguished Senator Zingina was saying, part of the pack of the Abiola support, in spite of Abiola's wealth, was that Abiola had volunteer youth. I know, for instance, that in various chapters, not the much money that was brought that happened. but was a massive volunteers. And similar thing also happened in the followership of President Muhammadu Buhari. When last we discussed this issue with the late Alhaji Shehu Shagari, he said the only time he saw such followership was the Aminu Kanu's followership. So the reminder should be that those who aspire to rule Nigeria should aim in their own personal capacities, both in public office and outside public office, to show exemplary leadership. The Nigerians are good followers, and they can volunteer for anybody they believe in. What do you need to elicit? Not that you will not look for the funds. There must be logistics in politics all over the liberal democracy of the world we know. But the most important thing one should look for is how will the people rate you? What do they believe you believe in? Because he said that truth thrives only when the people have trust that they can speak the truth speaks. So part of the deficit today is that a lot of our leaders, the people do not have much confidence in what their pronouncements. How do we build up that trust? Because trust deficit is what is the only thing hampering our democracy so far. I talked about a decent program like the Buhari Agrarian Revolution. A lot of youths had not been sufficiently mobilized. There's a segment they call the Anko Boras program, where you do not need collateral, where they will help you in land preparation, they help you in high-yielding seedlings, or if you're even in livestock or in fishery, whatever you're doing. And luckily for the country, there's no square meter in Nigeria that has no one crop or tuber that could grow with fertility. But how do we now get our youths and women to have a transition? A lot of people after graduation are still waiting for those white-collar jobs, which are no more there. How do we join the crusade in the agrarian revolution? Luckily, there's an aspect now that I see as one that we really make it a Buhari agrarian revolution. That is the plan to import machineries, tractors, not just in one state or section of the country, but in all the geopolitical zones. When the Minister of Agriculture, Saban Onano, was talking, he was talking about 680 centers and 140 processing centers. So how do we now, because that will be the next tune of democracy post-COVID, because from all the discoveries made in the oil sector, I do not see oil taking the lead in the next 20 or 30 years. It's going to first and foremost be agriculture. Yes, we can talk of manufacturing, but before then, 70% of Nigerians are already in agriculture. And if the 70% of the population are somewhere, and how will democracy grow? Democracy can only grow when you have those cadre at the rural areas with prosperity. They are going to be the new leaders we are going to have in Nigeria because they are going to have the same track record with Temko Abiola. They will be in a position to show we need to be followed. They will be like President Muhammadu Buhari that will not need to give you a kobo before you follow him. So the greatest reminder is what will elicit us to emulate those Nigerians have followed pro bono.
All right, thank you, DJ. Let me come back now to Malam Garba Shehu. Malam Shehu, I'd like to stir the waters a bit and just take you back. June 12th, was declared as Democracy Day, preceding the 2019 elections. And so some people felt, this could have been politically motivated. There were others who felt, okay, maybe this was done to scour the favor of, Chief MKO Abiola's followers and all that. Do we have cause now? Do those people have cause now to change this perception?
Oh, absolutely, yes, because I think the basis upon which the government acted, the president acted, is the need to bring justice, bring closure to a burning national issue, because in real terms, it could not have been possible that a real settlement of that issue, a closure, could be brought without this recognition. The country had agreed that a section of the country had felt genuinely aggrieved, and that led to the concession of the presidency for 2 terms to that section of the country. At the end of those 2 terms, it is debatable whether the people have felt so reassured and in a way compensated with the power. So President Buhari inherited a situation in which that this recognition is brought, because it came just short of making Chief MKO Abiola president of the country. His victory was duly recognized, and the national award, the highest that the country could have accorded to any citizen, the one that is won by heads of state, conferred upon himself. And as the various attestations came from family, political associates, Senator Jingina, the DG of the campaign, Hafsat Abiola particularly was really very outspoken on that, and Ashua Jubola to name all of that. So yes, there is a consensus that the president understood actually what went wrong and how it caused this country so much headache, so much problem. And for it to be stabilized, then this had to be taken, this action had to be taken. And here is where we are today.
I just wonder, Malagaba, show as briefly as you can, I mean, going back again to what happened 27 years ago today. I mean, you're from Kano, you were an editor during the June 12 election. Why did the people of Kano even vote against Tofa, who's from Kano? And he was a candidate of the NRC.
Politics in Kano had always been different. The radicalization had been ongoing for a long time. Most of the young people, had been raised in the fashion of the late Aminu Kano. He has changed perceptions about traditional authority and traditional notions of religion and a lot of that. So people were able to see issues beyond the sentiment. And Abiola put real issues on the table. How to make life better for every Nigerian. And we bought into it. And it's clear that, for those of us in the media at that time, we felt torn apart. But we were able to keep our own heads and see, that really what was at stake was the country itself, not any primordial sentiment. And there it was. So we moved, with the people and with MKO Abiola.
All right. Thank you very much, Malagaba. Senator Zwingina, let's come back to this. Again, in terms of lessons, going forward, what, in your opinion, were the huge obstacles to the actualization of June 12 between 1993 and 1998, when Abiola eventually died and therefore made the actualization almost impossible? What went on? It became an industry, or they were just profiteers from June 12?
Well, thank you. The first thing was that after the annulment, there was a promised election, that we should go back to election. And when the news was brought to us, Chief MK Abiola said, election? What happened to the last one we had? And he said, no, nobody's going back to any election. Let's resolve this one first. Secondly, there were key divisions. I believe the government was not united on the issue of June 12. The government, by which I mean the military hierarchy itself, was very divided. One of the disappointments of some of us were that the government that planned the program
could not have the courage to stand to defend a clean election that they planned for. Because it was planned to be clean. And that's why Henry Wonsu was given quite a free hand, right from the option A4 from the local governments right up. There was no interference by the government. So I would say the first obstacle was the regime itself, some sections of the regime. The second, of course, is it took people by surprise. This is not something we've ever had before, even in the whole of the continent. And so I wouldn't say that there were people who sold out or whatever. Some were running for their lives. Some went into exile. Some died in the course of it. There are Alfred Rewane, Kudidrat herself, many people, and ultimately the winner of the election. So there were others who paid with their blood. So that stood in the way of annulment, yes. And then subsequent leaders did not have the sense President Buhari had to revisit the matter. In fact, the concession given to the Southwest to produce a president for 8 years, which ought to have compensated on the Abiola loss, actually exacerbated it because there were efforts to actually annul even the remembrance and history of the Abiola election.
Can you just round up your thoughts so that we just take the last contribution from
Yes, so I would say that a lot of people who struggled to bring back the issue of June 12 did their best. There may have been some renegades along the way. Renegades are found everywhere, but they were not in a majority.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. DJ, quickly, in less than a minute, can we still find or see the kind of politics that June 12, 1993 represented going forward?
Yes, I continue to say so. Nigerians are very hopeful people, and they believe in popular participation. As long as we continue to improve our electoral process, the more committed you find Nigerians.
All right, Kingsley, we've got some tweets.
Well, yes,
let's quickly appreciate.
Yes, the tweets that have come in, Dele Jack Solomon, Mike Anyakwo, Festus Akimboye, these are our regulars. Johnny Olaoluwa. Let's take Dele Jack Solomon. It says, June 12 carries huge significance for the older Nigerians. Once again, the Buhari-led government should be commended for its decision to move Democracy Day to June 12 and for the decision to have awarded posthumously the highest honor of the land, GCFR, to late Chief MK Abiola.
Okay, and just Cecilia Okoroma is saying that paying the family some sort of compensation will definitely not be out of place, of course, in addition to the recognition. All right, let me quickly...
Yeah, Mike Anyakwo has an interesting one. It says, June 12 remains a watershed in the annals of politics in our country. Now, it doesn't recognize tribalism, and it represents unity in diversity. It also represents one sovereign nation, Nigeria.
All right, let's quickly appreciate our distinguished guests here in the studio. We're quickly running out of time. Malam Garba Shehu, Senior Special Assistant to the President on Media and Publicity, thank you for coming. Distinguished Senator Jonathan Zingina, Director General of Hope 93 Campaign Organization, thank you very much, distinguished.
Thank you.
And, of course, the Director General of Voice of Nigeria, Mr. Osita Okechukwu. Thank you very much, DG, for joining us. And earlier on, we signed off MKO Abiola's daughter.
That's Rinshola Abiola.
Kisa, you were also, and you played an active role during the time. You were an editor at the time.
Of course, yes. I was, Garba Shehu and I were contemporaries. I was editor of The Guardian on Sunday at the time of June 12 crisis. And as Senator Zwigina said, the annulment came as a surprise to everybody because it wasn't the case. The earlier attempt to stop the election through the court process was frustrated by the very provisions that you had in the enabling law, which said that there could be no judicial process that would frustrate the election.
Kingsley, I have to cut. I'm sorry.
No, you asked a question, so maybe I have to do a paper on that.
We want to join our live studios right now because we have a special program on matters of democracy coming up right now. But from all of us here, bye-bye.